all kinds of goodies here. I want to talk about what you might need if you are trying to make some herbal remedies and teas and such. So I'll start with what I have on here. This is actually, if you like loose leaf tea or you make your own tea, this is really nice. It's an infuser. You can put your loose leaf tea in here, put hot water in it, and then just put the lid on top and let it steep. That way all the good oils are not evaporating out. They're staying in your tea. And you can also, you need jars. You need jars for everything. So if you're doing an herbal infusion, a hot herbal infusion, where you take about an ounce of an herb like red clover or nettle and put it in here, and then put 4 cups of hot water in there, and then you put the lid on and steep it for, I usually do it before bed and steep it overnight. So if you do something like that, you want to use a canning jar. You don't want to use a jar that you have reused from like spaghetti or something like that from the store, because it might break with the heat. Those jars are okay for making tinctures and oils as long as they're cleaned out well and sterilized. But there's different size jars, so I use these. I store herbs in them. I make oils. I make tinctures. I make elixirs, vinegars. If you're making vinegars, you either want to use a plastic top or you want to use parchment paper under the metal lid, because it'll corrode the lid. So when you're straining your herbal infusion or any of your products that you're making, this is how I started out, with just a measuring cup and a sieve. And if that's all you have, that's what you can use. I actually have a quart size a glass measuring cup that the lettering has come off of, and I actually make my salves in that. I put water in a pan and put that in there, and that's when I melt my wax and mix it with my oils in. So there's all kinds of funnels. If you want to get fancy, you can. This is just a cheap plastic funnel, and you want different sizes. These are good for filling little dropper and sprayer bottles. And so this is, I forgot my other, I have everything tucked back here. I forgot my other, it's like a canning funnel. I don't know if that's a proper term for it. I have a blue plastic one that was really cheap. That was the first one I got, but I bought this. I think I probably got this off Amazon, but it actually has like a little grate you can put down there to help filter. And these are funnels that I got in a set of 3 stainless funnels, and they have these little grates that you can put in there, and it helps you strain everything out. It doesn't, this is a finer mesh than this one is, and they might not strain everything out. It depends on what you're straining. But this is, you can also use this. This is like a nut milk bag. And I got this one at the health food store. It's a little bit stained because I strained out some elderberry syrup with this. And it's good for catching the smaller pieces, especially if you have like dried chamomile. There's a lot of little pieces in there. And is that all I brought with me? That may be all I brought with me. But also pots and pans if you're making decoctions or if you're boiling your water instead of using like an electric tea kettle. So the difference between a tea and a decoction is a decoction is actually simmered for a length of time. I think it's about 20 minutes versus a tea bag, which you're just steeping, or loose leaf tea, which you're just steeping in hot water. The decoction actually it's simmered because it's usually roots and bark and harder material than what you would normally steep as a tea. You also need like little dropper bottles if you're going to carry them with you. I usually always have something I'm carrying with me. Tins or jars for salves, something that you can get into easily. Sometimes, especially if it's for me or for my son, I'll get the little, I guess they're like half pint ball jars and use those for salve. You can get about 4 ounces in there. And obviously you need your herbs, your wax if you're making salves, alcohol, oils. If you're making oils, you'll want to use a decent oil. I usually use an olive oil or sunflower oil. Sometimes avocado oil. And you can use like a jojoba oil or an almond oil, something lighter, especially if you're making something for your face. I don't think if I'm leaving anything out. Stirring utensils. But, I mean, usually you can get by with the basics of your kitchen. If you have kitchen, cooking materials, most people have funnels. I have actually, it depends on what I'm straining. I don't do this with oils, but I've done it with tinctures and teas. I've used a coffee filter in a funnel, or I put a coffee filter in the sieve, and you have to be careful because if it tilts, you can get some spillage. It helps probably if it's a bigger measuring cup too, but you can get by with a lot of the basics that you already have without spending a lot of money. And put your herbs in food. Add them into food. You don't have to get fancy. You can cook with it. Every morning I add dried rose petals to my smoothies, and sometimes I'll add dried nettle because it's super nutritious, or dried red clover. I had some holy basil that I was adding into my smoothies for a while, and I'm out. I miss it. I've added calendula leaves, chamomile, thyme. I put thyme in my smoothies, not a crazy amount, but a couple teaspoons of dried. You can add fresh mint, dried mint. Just get creative and, use your herbs, man.